What would you do if the person you loved most in the world told you that you were a burden, that you should disappear, and that your life wasn't worth living anymore? This is the story of one woman who heard those words, but chose a completely different path. Before we begin, I want to say thank you so much for watching Voices of Auntie Belle. If you're enjoying this story, please like it, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe so you never miss another episode. We would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you watching from today? We read every single comment and love hearing from our community around the world. Now, let me tell you about Rose. Rose was 65 years old, and life had given her both beautiful moments and terrible pain. For 42 years, she had been married to a man named Charles. He was the love of her life. Charles was the kind of husband who remembered how Rose took her coffee in the morning, who held her hand during scary movies, and who believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had something more important. They had each other, and they had love that filled their home like warm sunlight through the windows. But 5 years ago, Charles got sick. Rose watched the man she loved slowly fade away. She was there for every doctor's appointment, every difficult day, and every moment that mattered. She held his hand the night he passed away, and a piece of her heart went with him. After Charles died, Rose felt lost. Her son, David, still visited her, but things were different now. Rose lived in a small house that she and Charles had paid for over many years. The house had memories in every room. It had the kitchen where they made Sunday pancakes together. It had the bedroom where they had whispered dreams to each other in the dark. It had the porch where they watched the sunset almost every evening for 4 decades. For 2 years after Charles died, Rose mostly stayed in that house. She didn't go anywhere. She didn't do anything. She just sat and remembered. Her friends called and invited her places, but she always said no. She felt like part of her was missing, and she didn't know how to be the person she used to be without Charles. But then one day, something shifted inside her. She was sitting on the porch at sunset, just like she and Charles used to do, and she realized something that changed everything. Charles would not have wanted her to stop living. He would not have wanted her to sit in that house and disappear. Charles had always encouraged her to be brave and to live life fully. He had always told her that every single day was a gift, and she should never waste it. That night, Rose made a decision. She was going to stop sitting in memories and start making new ones. She was going to get out into the world. She was going to drive herself places, make new friends, and find new reasons to smile. She was going to live. The next morning, Rose did something that surprised everyone, especially herself. She went to a used car lot, and she bought a modest, reliable car. It was a blue sedan, nothing fancy, but it was perfect. It had good brakes, a clean engine, and it was dependable. The moment Rose sat behind that steering wheel, something woke up inside her. It wasn't just a car. It was freedom. It was possibility. It was the first real step she had taken toward a new life. She drove to the grocery store by herself. She drove to the library. She drove to visit her old friends who had missed her so much. She drove to the ocean one morning just to watch the sunrise. And with every drive, Rose felt more alive. The car became more than transportation. It became a symbol that Rose was still here, still living, still worthy of having dreams and adventures. When she told David about the car, she thought he would be happy for her. She thought her son would understand that she was healing, that she was finding her way back to life. But the moment the words left her mouth, she saw something change in David's face. His expression became hard, calculated, and cold in a way she had never seen before. David told her that the car was a bad idea. He said that at her age, she shouldn't be driving alone. He said that she might get lost, or she might have an accident, or she might break down on the side of the road and be stranded. Every word he spoke was designed to scare her, to make her doubt herself, to make her believe that she was too old, too fragile, and too helpless to take care of herself. But Rose had made a choice. She had decided to live again, and she wasn't going to let fear stop her. She smiled at her son and told him that she appreciated his concern, but the car was staying. She was going to keep driving. She was going to keep living. She didn't know it yet, but that simple decision would set everything in motion. She didn't know that her choice to buy a car and reclaim her independence would force her to face something much bigger and more frightening than she ever imagined. She didn't know that the people closest to her would reveal sides of themselves that would break her heart. All Rose knew was that she had taken the first step toward a new life, and she wasn't going to turn back. She had no idea what was coming next, but she was ready to face it. This is where her real story begins. The next day, everything changed. Rose was in her kitchen making tea when she heard a car pull into her driveway. It was David, but he wasn't alone. Her daughter-in-law, Patricia, was with him. This was strange because Patricia rarely came to visit. In fact, Rose had always felt that Patricia tolerated her more than liked her. Patricia had a way of looking at Rose's house like it was old and falling apart, even though Rose kept it clean and maintained it carefully. Patricia had a way of sighing when Rose talked, like everything Rose said was boring or stupid. David came in through the front door without knocking, and Patricia followed behind him with her arms crossed over her chest. Their faces were serious, determined, like they were on a mission. Rose felt her stomach tighten. Something was wrong. David sat down at the kitchen table without being invited to sit. He looked at his mother like she was a stranger, not his own mother. His voice was cold when he spoke. "Mom, we need to talk about this car situation," he said. "It's completely unacceptable. You're too old to be driving around by yourself. You're going to get into an accident. You're going to hurt yourself or someone else. We've been thinking about what's best for you, and we've made a decision." Rose felt her heart start to beat faster. She sat down across from him, still holding her warm cup of tea. "What decision?" she asked quietly. Patricia leaned against the counter, and when she spoke, her voice was sharp and cutting. "You need to sell that car. You need to move into a nice assisted living facility where there are professionals to take care of you. You shouldn't be here alone in this big house. You shouldn't be driving. You should be somewhere where people can watch you, help you, make sure you don't do anything dangerous." Rose's hands started to shake. She set down her teacup carefully so they wouldn't see how scared she was. "I'm not ready to do that," Rose said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. I've been living in this house for over 40 years. I'm healthy. I drive carefully. But David cut her off. He stood up from the table, and his voice got louder. "You're not thinking clearly, Mom. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're making bad decisions. You bought a car you don't need. You're spending money you shouldn't be spending. You're putting yourself in danger. That's why you need to move into assisted living. That's why you need to let us take care of things for you." There was something in the way he said it that made Rose feel cold. It wasn't concern in his voice. It was something else. It was control. It was like he was treating her like she was a child who couldn't think for herself. "David, I appreciate that you care about me," Rose said, "but I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. This is where I want to be." Patricia made a noise like she was annoyed. She walked over to Rose and looked down at her like she was looking at something beneath her. "Your independence is going to kill you," Patricia said. "You need to accept that you're old and that you can't do things anymore. Stop being stubborn." Those words hit Rose like a punch. Your independence is going to kill you. As if wanting to live her own life was dangerous. As if being free was something to be ashamed of. David walked to the window and looked out at Rose's blue car in the driveway. His jaw clenched. "Where are your car keys?" he asked. "Excuse me," Rose said. "Your car keys," David repeated, turning back to face her. "Give them to me." "No," Rose said firmly. "This is my car. Those are my keys. They stay with me." David's face turned red. He was angry now, truly angry. "You're being unreasonable. You're being selfish. Do you know how much I worry about you? Do you know how much stress this puts on me, knowing that you're out there driving around, probably getting lost, probably confused?" Rose stood up from her chair. She felt something rising up inside her, something strong and solid. It was anger, but it was also clarity. She was seeing her son in a way she had never seen him before. This wasn't about concern. This was about control. This was about him wanting to take away her choices, take away her freedom, take away her life. "David, I love you," Rose said, her voice steady and clear. "But I am your mother, not your child. I am not going to give you my keys. I am not going to sell my car. I am not going to move into a facility. This is my life, and I get to decide what I do with it." Patricia let out a harsh laugh. "You're being ridiculous," she said. "You're going to regret this. You're going to end up alone, and then you'll wish you had listened to us. Maybe, Rose said. But at least I'll be alone on my own terms. David walked toward the front door, and for a moment, Rose thought he was going to leave. But instead he stopped. He turned back to face her, and when he spoke, his voice was low and dangerous in a way that made Rose's blood run cold. Fine, he said. Keep the car. But don't come crying to me when something goes wrong. Don't call me when you have an accident. Don't call me when you fall and break something. Because as far as I'm concerned, you're on your own now. You want to be independent? Well, you're going to be completely alone. He walked out of the house, and Patricia followed behind him, not even saying goodbye. Rose heard their car door slam. She heard the engine start. She heard them drive away. Rose stood in her kitchen, shaking. Her cup of tea was still warm on the table. Outside, her blue car sat in the driveway, beautiful and silent. She had won the argument. She had kept her keys. She had kept her car. She had kept her independence. But something inside her felt broken. Her son had looked at her like he didn't love her anymore. He had spoken to her like she was an enemy. He had threatened to abandon her if she didn't obey him. Rose walked over to the window and looked at her car. She thought about all the drives she had taken. She thought about the sunrise at the ocean. She thought about visiting her friends. She thought about all the ways that car had made her feel alive again. And then she thought about her son's words. Don't call me when you have an accident. Don't call me when you fall. You're on your own now. Rose realized something in that moment that changed everything. Her son didn't want her to be safe. If he really wanted her to be safe, he would trust her. If he really wanted her to be safe, he would believe in her ability to take care of herself. No, what David wanted was for her to be helpless. He wanted her to be dependent. He wanted her to need him so badly that she would have to do whatever he said. And Rose understood why. It had nothing to do with love. It had to do with control. It had to do with money. It had to do with what would happen to her house, her savings, her possessions when she was too weak and too broken to protect them. That's when Rose knew she had to do something. She couldn't just sit and wait for David to make his next move. She couldn't just hope that he would change his mind. She had to protect herself. She had to protect everything that was hers. She picked up the phone, and she made a call that would change the course of everything. The number she dialed belonged to someone she had known for many years. Walter Pierce was a lawyer who had helped her and Charles with their will many years ago. He was an honest man, a good man, and he was someone Rose trusted completely. When Walter answered the phone, Rose's voice was shaking, but her mind was clear. Walter, I need your help, she said. And I need you to understand that what I'm about to tell you is very serious. Rose told Walter everything. She told him about the car. She told him about David's visit. She told him about the threats. She told him about her fear that David wanted to take control of her life and her possessions. She told him that she was worried about what would happen next. Walter listened carefully to every word. When Rose finished, there was a long pause on the other end of the phone. Rose, Walter said finally, what you're describing is elder abuse. It's manipulation. It's coercion. And it's illegal. I'm going to help you protect yourself, but we need to act quickly and carefully. Can you come to my office tomorrow? The next morning, Rose sat in Walter's office. The walls were lined with law books. There was a big wooden desk covered with papers and pens. Walter sat across from her, and he had a yellow legal pad in front of him. He was taking notes, asking questions, making sure he understood everything that had happened. Here's what we're going to do, Walter said. First, we're going to make sure that your car title and registration are completely in your name. No one else can have any claim to it. Second, we're going to create a notarized document that says, very clearly, that you are of sound mind. You are capable of making your own decisions. You are capable of managing your own affairs. This document will state that you purchased the car of your own free will, and that any attempts to take it from you would be theft. Rose listened carefully, writing down notes of her own. Third, Walter continued, we're going to update your will. If David is trying to gain control of you, it's probably because he expects to inherit your home and your money when you pass away. We're going to make changes that protect your wishes and your assets. We can remove him as the primary heir if that's what you want. We can leave your house to someone else, or we can set up a trust that controls how your money is used. We can make sure that your property goes exactly where you want it to go, not where David thinks it should go. Can we do that? Rose asked. Can I really change my will like that? Absolutely, Walter said. It's your will. It's your property. You have complete control over what happens to it. And here's the important part. Once we create this documentation, once we have it all notarized and filed properly, David will know that if he tries to take your car or if he tries to force you into a facility or if he tries to control you in any way, he could face serious legal consequences. He could be charged with elder abuse. He could be charged with theft. He could be charged with fraud. The law is on your side here, Rose. Rose felt something shift inside her. For the first time since David's visit, she felt like she had power. She felt like she could protect herself. Over the next week, Rose and Walter worked together to create a complete legal protection plan. Walter prepared documents that stated, officially and permanently, that Rose was mentally competent. These documents described Rose's sound mind, her ability to make decisions, her understanding of her own situation. They included a sworn statement from Walter himself, confirming that he had met with Rose, that she had answered all his questions clearly and intelligently, and that she was absolutely capable of managing her own life. Walter also prepared a detailed notarized letter about the car. This letter explained in clear legal language that Rose had purchased the vehicle of her own free will. It stated that the car belonged to Rose and Rose alone. It stated that any attempt to remove the car from Rose's possession without her permission would constitute theft. It listed all the title numbers and registration information. It was stamped with an official seal and signed by a notary public. But most importantly, Walter helped Rose completely rewrite her will. In the new will, Rose made clear decisions about her property. She left her house to the local library foundation, a charity that she had always loved. She left a significant portion of her money to scholarships for young women who wanted to become nurses. She left specific items of sentimental value to her friends and to extended family members. And she left David a modest amount of money, with a note that explained why her decisions had changed. Walter read the note to Rose before it was finalized. It said, "I love my son, but I cannot leave my life's work and my home to someone who has tried to control me through fear and threats. I hope that someday David will understand that love means respecting the choices of the people you care about, not trying to take away their freedom." When everything was complete, Walter placed all the documents in a large manila envelope. He handed it to Rose, and his expression was very serious. "Rose, I want you to understand something," he said. "These documents are your protection. They are your shield. Keep this envelope somewhere safe. Keep it where David can't find it, but where you can access it if you need it. If David tries anything, if he tries to take your car, if he tries to force you into a facility, if he tries to manipulate you, you have the legal right to show him these documents. You have the right to tell him that his actions are illegal and that you will prosecute if necessary." Rose held the envelope carefully, like it was made of gold. "But Rose," Walter continued, "I want to be clear about something else. These documents are not meant to hurt your son. They're meant to protect you. Use them wisely. Use them as a last resort if necessary. But understand that once you show these documents to David, once he realizes what you've done, things will change. There's no going back from that moment." Rose nodded. She understood. For the next few days, Rose carried the envelope with her everywhere. She had hidden it in her bedroom, in a safe place where David wouldn't find it, but she felt like she needed to have it close. It was like a shield. It was like armor. As long as she had those documents, she couldn't be forced into a facility. She couldn't be separated from her car. She couldn't be controlled. But she also knew what Walter had said was true. Once she used these documents, everything would change. There was no going back. Her relationship with her son would be damaged, possibly beyond repair. Rose spent those few days thinking about what she wanted to do. She could just keep the documents hidden, keep them as insurance, hope that David would eventually back down. Or she could take them to David now, show him that she was serious, force him to understand that he couldn't control her. She was still thinking about this decision when the phone rang. It was David. His voice was different now. It was softer. It was less angry. "Mom, I'm sorry about how I talked to you," he said. "Patricia and we've been talking, and we realized that we were too hard on you. We just love you so much, and we're scared that something will happen to you. Can we come over tomorrow? We want to talk. We want to make things right." Rose's heart jumped. Was David actually going to apologize? Was he going to accept her independence? Was this nightmare finally going to end? She didn't know it yet, but this phone call was going to trigger the most important moment of her life. She didn't know that David's apology was not what it seemed. She didn't know that he and Patricia had a new plan, a more clever plan, a more dangerous plan. All Rose knew was that her son wanted to talk to her tomorrow, and she needed to be ready. She held the envelope of documents in her hands, and she prepared herself for what was coming next. She had no idea how much courage she was going to need. The next day, David and Patricia arrived at Rose's house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This time, David was smiling. Patricia was carrying a bouquet of flowers. They came in through the door like they were visiting an old friend, not like they were there to manipulate and control. "Mom, we're so sorry," David said, pulling Rose into a hug. "We've been thinking about everything, and we realize we were wrong. We were pushy. We were disrespectful. We should have listened to you." Rose felt confused. She wanted to believe him, but something in her gut told her to be careful. She sat down on the couch, and David and Patricia sat across from her. "We talked to a doctor," Patricia said, handing Rose the flowers. "And the doctor told us that it's actually really good for people your age to stay active and independent. We were wrong to push you into a facility. The car is a great idea. It's wonderful that you're getting out and making new friends." Rose's heart felt lighter. Maybe she had been wrong about them. Maybe they really did just love her and were scared. "Thank you for saying that," Rose said. "That means so much to me." David leaned forward. His voice was warm and gentle. "Mom, we want to make things right. We want to help you. And we've been thinking, maybe there are other ways we can support your independence. Ways that help all of us." Rose's stomach tightened. There it was. The other shoe. The real reason they were here. "What do you mean?" she asked carefully. "Well," David said, "we've been talking to a financial advisor. And the advisor explained something to us. With the economy the way it is, and with you being retired, you might want to think about your financial future. You might want to make sure that your money is protected. That your house is protected." Patricia nodded, smiling. "What David means is, what if you signed your house over to David? Not right now, but eventually. That way it would be protected. That way, if something happened to you, there wouldn't be all those legal complications. David could just take care of everything." Rose stood up from the couch. She walked to the window and looked out at her blue car in the driveway. "So let me understand this," she said, her voice very calm and very quiet. "You come here and apologize to me. You tell me how wonderful I am for being independent. And then you ask me to sign my house over to you." "Mom, it's not like that," David said, but Rose could hear the desperation in his voice now. The mask was slipping. "Isn't it?" Rose turned back to face them. "David, I have been thinking about what happened last week. I have been thinking about what you said to me. You said that if I didn't do what you wanted, you would abandon me. You said I would be completely alone. And now you're here, trying a different approach. You're trying to be nice. You're trying to manipulate me with flowers and apologies and doctors and financial advisors. But it's the same thing, isn't it? It's still about taking away my independence. It's still about taking my house and my money." Patricia's face turned red. "That's not fair," she said. "We're trying to help you." "No," Rose said. "You're not. You're trying to help yourselves." David stood up. His voice changed again. The softness was gone. "Mom, you're being ungrateful. After everything we've done for you, after everything we're trying to do for you, you're being selfish and difficult." Rose walked to her bedroom. She came back a moment later with the manila envelope. She held it up so David and Patricia could see it. "I want you to understand something," Rose said. Her voice was steady and strong. "I have spent the last week protecting myself from you. I have met with a lawyer. I have created legal documents that prove I am of sound mind and capable of making my own decisions. I have documents that prove that my car is mine and mine alone. And I have completely rewritten my will." David's face went pale. "What?" "My house is no longer going to you," Rose said. "My money is no longer going to you. You will receive a modest inheritance, and you will receive a letter explaining why I made these changes. And if you ever try to take my car, if you ever try to force me into a facility, if you ever try to manipulate me or coerce me in any way, I will press charges. I will have you arrested for elder abuse. Patricia made a noise like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. You're threatening us? I'm protecting myself, Rose said. There's a difference. I love my son, but I will not allow myself to be controlled by fear. I will not allow myself to be stripped of my dignity and my independence. David's hands were shaking. He looked like he might say something, but then he stopped. He looked at Rose like he was seeing her for the first time. Like he was seeing that she was not the weak, broken woman he thought she was. He was seeing that his mother was strong. She was capable. She was someone who could and would fight back. I didn't raise you to be this way, David said finally. No, Rose agreed. You didn't. Charles and I raised you to be honest and kind and respectful. Somewhere along the way you became someone else. And I don't know if that's my fault or your fault, but it's the truth. David walked toward the door. Patricia followed behind him. Neither of them said anything. Neither of them looked back. Rose stood in her living room, holding the envelope of documents. She was shaking, but not from fear. She was shaking because she had just done something terrifying and necessary. She had just told her son that she would not be controlled. She had just chosen herself. For a moment, she wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. For a moment, she wondered if she should have kept quiet, kept the documents hidden, hoped that things would get better. But then she looked out the window at her blue car. She thought about all the drives she had taken. She thought about the sunrise at the ocean. She thought about her independence. She thought about her life, and how it belonged to her and no one else. No, she thought. She had done the right thing. David's car was still in the driveway. Rose watched as he sat in the driver's seat, not moving. Patricia was looking at something on her phone. They stayed there for several minutes, like they couldn't quite believe what had just happened. Then David started the car. He backed out of the driveway. He drove away, and this time, he didn't look back. Rose walked to her kitchen and made a cup of tea. Her hands were still shaking a little bit, but less now. She sat on her porch and watched the sunset, just like she used to do with Charles. She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if David would accept what she had done or if he would try something else. She didn't know if their relationship could ever be repaired. But what she did know was that she was still here. She was still living. She was still free. And for the first time since Charles died, Rose felt like she could breathe again. The days after the confrontation were quiet. David didn't call. Patricia didn't text. Rose waited for the other shoe to drop, for David to show up at her door with some new plan, some new way to convince her that she was making a terrible mistake. But he didn't. The silence was almost as hard as the conflict had been. Rose found herself replaying the conversation over and over in her mind. She thought about the look on David's face when he realized that she had prepared legal documents. She thought about the moment when he understood that his mother was not going to be manipulated. She thought about his final words. I didn't raise you to be this way. Those words haunted her. Did he mean that she shouldn't have stood up for herself? Or did he mean that he didn't recognize her strength anymore? Rose wasn't sure, and the uncertainty made her heart ache. 2 days after David's visit, Rose did something that she had been planning for a long time. She packed a small bag, made sure her car had a full tank of gas, and she drove to the ocean. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. She didn't leave a note. She just got in her blue car and drove. The drive took 3 hours. Rose drove through the city, then through smaller towns, then through open countryside where there were more trees than buildings. The road stretched out in front of her, long and peaceful and full of possibility. As she drove, she felt the weight on her chest beginning to lift. She felt the worry and the stress and the sadness starting to fade away, like a fog clearing in the morning sun. When Rose finally reached the ocean, the sun was starting to set. She found a small motel near the beach and checked in for the night. The woman at the front desk smiled at her warmly. Are you here for a special occasion? The woman asked. I'm here to remember that I'm alive, Rose said. That night, Rose sat on the beach and watched the waves. The ocean was huge and powerful and endless. It had been here for millions of years, and it would be here for millions of years after she was gone. Watching the waves made Rose feel very small, but in a good way. It made her feel like her problems were small too. It made her feel like even though things were difficult with David, even though her life had changed in ways she never expected, the world was still beautiful and still full of wonder. She thought about Charles. She thought about how much he would have loved to sit on this beach with her. She thought about how he used to say that the ocean made him feel connected to something bigger than himself, something eternal and unchanging and true. "I did it, Charles," she whispered to the waves. "I stood up for myself. I chose my own life. I hope you're proud of me." The waves crashed and hissed and rolled back out to sea. Rose sat there for a long time, just listening. And somehow, in the sound of the ocean, she felt like Charles was answering her. She felt like he was telling her that he was proud. She felt like he was telling her that she had made the right choice. That night, Rose slept better than she had slept in months. Her dreams were peaceful. When she woke up, it was still dark outside. She got out of bed and got dressed, and she drove to a spot on the beach where she could see the horizon. The sunrise was one of the most beautiful things Rose had ever seen. The sky turned pink and orange and red. The sun came up slowly, like it was being born, like the whole world was being born again with each new day. The ocean glowed with color. The light touched everything, and everything became beautiful. Rose stood on the beach and watched the sunrise, and she made a decision. She decided that she was going to stop waiting for David to call. She decided that she was going to stop hoping that he would apologize and that things would go back to normal. Things were never going to go back to normal, and that was okay. That was actually good. Rose was going to live her life for herself now. She was going to drive her blue car wherever she wanted to go. She was going to visit the ocean whenever she needed to remember who she was. She was going to spend time with her friends who loved and respected her. She was going to plant a garden in her backyard. She was going to take a painting class. She was going to write in a journal about her feelings and her dreams. She was going to live. On the drive back home, Rose felt different. She felt lighter. She felt free. She felt like she had been given a second chance at life, and she was going to make the most of it. When she arrived home, she saw that someone had left something on her porch. It was a small wooden box, the kind that people use to hold memories and treasures. Rose's heart jumped. She didn't know who had left it there. She was almost afraid to open it. But when she did, she found a note inside. It was in David's handwriting. The note said, "Mom, I don't know if I can say I'm sorry in a way that will matter. I don't know if I can undo what I've done or fix what I've broken. But I want you to know that I've been thinking about what you said. I've been thinking about how I treated you, and I'm ashamed. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to be better. I hope that someday, when you're ready, we can talk. Love, David." Inside the box were photographs. They were old photographs from when David was a child. Pictures of David and Rose together. Pictures of David and Charles together. Pictures of the three of them at the beach, smiling and happy and free. Rose sat on her porch for a long time, holding the box and looking at the photographs. She cried, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of complicated emotion. They were tears that said that she loved her son, but she also loved herself. They were tears that said that she was hurt, but she was healing. They were tears that said that she was broken, but she was not broken beyond repair. She didn't know if David's apology was genuine. She didn't know if he would try to control her again. She didn't know what their relationship would look like moving forward. But what she did know was that she had survived this. She had stood up for herself. She had chosen her own freedom. And no matter what happened next, no one could ever take that away from her. Rose put the photographs back in the box carefully. She would keep them, not to forget the pain, but to remember the love. The love that had existed before things got complicated. The love that might exist again, if David was truly willing to change. But she would not wait for that love to return. She would not put her life on hold. She would not stop living while waiting for her son to become the man she had raised him to be. Rose stood up from her porch chair. She looked at her blue car in the driveway. She thought about all the places she still wanted to go, all the things she still wanted to do, all the life she still had left to live. And she smiled. 3 months passed after Rose's trip to the ocean. 3 months of living quietly, peacefully, and completely on her own terms. She had started a painting class at the community center, and she discovered that she had a real talent for capturing the colors of sunsets. She had planted a garden full of roses and tomatoes and wildflowers. She had written letters to her friends, telling them how much they meant to her. She had driven to the library, the park, the coffee shop, the beach, and a dozen other places, just because she wanted to. She had lived. David had called a few times. Rose had answered some of the calls and let others go to voicemail. When she did talk to him, the conversations were careful and polite, but they were not warm. David had apologized again and again. He had asked if he and Patricia could visit. He had asked if they could have dinner together. Rose had said maybe someday but not yet. She was still healing. She was still learning to trust him again. She had told David that she would need to see real change. She would need to see him go to therapy to understand why he had tried to control her. She would need to see him treat Patricia differently, with more respect and equality. She would need to see him understand that independence was not selfishness, that boundaries were not rejection, and that love means respecting the choices of the people you care about. David said he would do these things. He said he was already seeing a therapist. He said he was reading books about healthy relationships. He said he was trying to be a better man. Rose believed him, but she also knew that she would not let her guard down. She would not forget what had happened. She would not go back to the way things were before, when she accepted his criticism and his control without question. She had learned something important during all of this, and that lesson was written in her heart forever. She was worthy of respect. She was worthy of independence. She was worthy of a life of her own. One morning, Rose woke up early and drove to the ocean again. She brought her camera this time, because she wanted to capture the sunrise and remember it forever. She stood on the beach and watched the sun come up, just like she had done 3 months before. The sky turned the same colors. The ocean glowed the same way. And Rose felt grateful. She was grateful for her car, which had started everything. She was grateful for Walter Pierce, who had given her the legal tools to protect herself. She was grateful for the ocean, which had taught her that she was small but strong, fragile but powerful. She was grateful for Charles, who had taught her long ago that every day was a gift. But most of all, she was grateful for herself. She was grateful for the courage she had found inside her own heart. She was grateful for her own strength. She was grateful that she had chosen to live. As the sun continued to rise, Rose noticed something unusual. There was a man walking on the beach toward her. He was older, with gray hair and kind eyes. He was walking slowly, taking his time, stopping to look at shells and rocks. When he reached Rose, he smiled. "Beautiful morning," he said. "Yes," Rose agreed. "It really is." "I'm Henry," the man said. "I come here most mornings to watch the sunrise. I've never seen you here before." "I'm Rose," she said. "And I don't come here very often. Just when I need to remember something important." "What do you need to remember?" Henry asked. Rose thought about this question for a moment. She thought about everything that had happened. She thought about her loss and her pain and her strength. She thought about her blue car and her legal documents and her rewritten will. She thought about her son and her complicated feelings about him. She thought about the choice she had made to live her own life. "I need to remember that I'm alive," Rose said finally. "And that my life is mine to live." Henry nodded like he understood completely. "That's a good thing to remember," he said. "My wife used to come here every morning. She loved the sunrise. She passed away 5 years ago, and for a long time, I couldn't come to the beach without her. But eventually, I realized that she would want me to keep coming. She would want me to keep living. So now I come here every morning, and I remember her, but I also remember myself. I remember that I'm still here. I remember that I still have a life to live." They stood together on the beach, two people who had lost so much, watching the sunrise. They didn't talk very much after that. They didn't need to. They understood each other's pain and their strength without many words. Before Henry left, he asked Rose if she would like to have coffee with him sometime. Rose smiled and said yes. It wasn't a romantic thing, at least not yet. It was just two people who had survived hard times, and who wanted to share their stories and their company with each other. It was two people who had learned that life was precious, and that living it meant opening yourself up to connection and possibility, even after you had been hurt. Over the next few months, Rose and Henry became friends. They would meet at the ocean in the mornings and watch the sunrise together. They would have coffee and breakfast. They would talk about their lives, their losses, their dreams. Rose found that having someone to share her life with, someone who respected her independence and her choices, made everything feel more meaningful. David did eventually come to visit. He came alone, without Patricia, and he was genuinely sorry. He had been seeing a therapist regularly. He had been reading about healthy relationships. He had been thinking about the choices he had made and the person he wanted to become. It was a start. Rose didn't immediately forgive him, but she opened the door to the possibility of forgiveness. She introduced him to Henry, and though it was awkward at first, David treated Henry with respect and kindness. He could see that his mother was happy, and he could see that she had built a life for herself that didn't depend on him. And that, Rose realized, was the most important thing. Not the forgiveness. Not the reconciliation. But the fact that her life didn't depend on David anymore. Her happiness didn't depend on his approval. Her worth didn't depend on his love. Rose had learned to love herself first. She had learned to respect her own choices. She had learned that independence was not lonely, that boundaries were not cruel, and that standing up for yourself was the most powerful thing you could ever do. Her blue car sat in the driveway, and it was no longer just a vehicle. It was a symbol of everything she had reclaimed. Every time she drove it, she was driving toward her own life. Every time she turned the key in the ignition, she was choosing freedom. Rose had started a new chapter. It was a chapter that had been written by her own hand, a chapter that belonged completely and totally to her. And as she looked at the ocean, at Henry beside her, at her car waiting in the distance, Rose knew that this chapter was just the beginning. The story of Rose's courage would not end here. It would continue, with new chapters yet to be written, new sunrises yet to be witnessed, new adventures yet to be experienced. And every single day of that story would belong to her. This is the journey of one woman who refused to disappear. This is the story of one person who chose her own life. And if you are watching this story, if you have made it all the way to this moment, then I want you to know something important. You matter. Your life matters. Your independence matters. Your choices matter. If someone is trying to control you, if someone is trying to make you feel small or helpless or worthless, remember Rose. Remember that you have the right to live your own life. Remember that you have the strength inside you to stand up for yourself, even if you don't believe it yet. Remember that your freedom is worth fighting for. Thank you so much for watching this story with me today. If Rose's journey touched your heart, if you felt something inside you while watching her stand up for herself, please like this video and share it with someone you care about. Share it with someone who needs to remember that they matter. Share it with someone who needs to know that they have the courage to live their own life. And please, subscribe to Voices of Auntie Belle. We tell stories that matter. We tell stories about real people facing real struggles. We tell stories that might just change your life, the way Rose's story changed hers. I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you watching from today? What did you think about Rose's journey? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself the way Rose did? Tell me your story. Tell me your truth. We read every single comment, and hearing from you makes our community stronger. Remember, you are worthy of respect. You are worthy of independence. You are worthy of a life that belongs completely and totally to you. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. This is Auntie Belle, reminding you that your life is your own. Live it with courage. Live it with joy. Live it with freedom. Thank you for being here with us today.